You ready to get the Absol?
Yeah, we can start with a little ab.
Okay. Ray Rims is in the building. Shout out to Ray Rims. He says, "Is this the first time someone in his camp had a better album in the same year as him?" Herbert is menacing. Yeah. I mean, I think so because, like I said, every other release he's had, it's pretty much the best album of the year, or at least top three. What were your thoughts about AbSouls Herbert?
It was overall a very impressive project to me. I really enjoyed it. Um, I think it's an album that's worthy of kind of like maybe taking a look at it and seeing if it's top 10 worthy. I do have some slight critiques for it.
Okay.
They're not like anything heavy. Some of it is just some things that I I just believe some things fundamentally based on the hip hop music that I've listened to. And I'm going to tell you one of those things again right quick because I want to log in right quick and make sure I got the number of songs right. So this album is 18 songs,
I got the track list up. I believe it's
and it's
18.
it's an hour and 7 minutes. Now, there are two things that I think keep albums sometimes from reaching their greatness: when there's more than 15 songs, and when it's over an hour long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what essentially hurt this album because it's like, well, I can think of three tracks that maybe you could take off, and that would leave you with 15 songs in about 50 minutes. And then I think we would have a definite top 10 album and maybe even some potential like top five ish talk.
What do you think
Because
about him actually ending the album on a premiere track? Think that was the right move?
he's the quirky, funky one out the crew, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the type of move that he would pull. I found myself thinking early on with this album because I don't think the missteps happened till later. But
Mm-hmm.
like the first like five, six, seven songs, I'm like, hold on. I was like, I think this is the best stuff he's ever done. Like in terms of like succession, like song after song, I'm like, hold on, he's making his best project.
And I'm a fan. I mean,
You're a bigger fan than I. Yeah.
he's personally my favorite member of TDE. I mean, obviously Kendrick's the best. I mean, but personally, I like Absol. I like his approach. I like his flow to music. I like his. I think he has a better rap voice than Kendrick. You know what I mean? Like I
I like
think that.
Schoolboy. But
Yeah, and Schoolboy's that dude too. I think when it comes to picking production, ain't none of them fucking with Schoolboy. I think the Absol's issue has been production, and I think that
yes,
this is probably the best produced effort from end
there
to
we go.
end we've seen from him, or heard from him rather. My favorite song on there is "Good Man."
That's this. I mean, and this is what I mean small critiques.
Hmm.
Oh, Message in a Bottle is beautiful, but I'm not a big fan of you starting off. I'm old school like that, Mike. You really shouldn't start off your album with a guest appearance, even though I get it. Like, I don't love it when artists do that. I'm going to tell you another West Coast artist that's done that, and I don't love it when they do it. When Jesus Piece starts off with Meek Mill, I'm like,
Hmm.
no. I was like, no, no, no. Give me Game first. Like, it's your album. Give me Game first. So even though I love Message in a Bottle, this is what I mean, small critiques. But man, the way it starts, Message in a Bottle, No Report Card, Hollandaise, Moon Shooter with Joey, ooh, fuck out my face,
The
Good
way you
Man.
feel about Black Star is how I feel about Joey. It's like he's been killing it on his features this year, and it's like, my
He has, because he
nigga,
killed this
why
feature.
couldn't
This
that
song.
be what you were doing on your joint?
So the first six is just like bang, 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 bang. I was like, oh damn. I'm like, damn. Like so the first half is top 10 easy. Because even though Do Better, Gang in Them isn't as good, like these songs are all solid. Can I sidebar right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
On Go Off, there's two things going on. First of all, that's one of Big Sean's best verses.
Big Sean did his thing, and I know
Big
you're
Sean
not
got busy.
you're not high on Big Sean like that.
No, Big Sean got busy. I was like, oh, when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is one of his best verses. Second of all, this is how great Lauren Hill is. Men borrow her bars like they do on Go Off.
Hmm.
They borrowed from doo-wop. So when you're speaking to that, what we were speaking to Wednesday about her greatness, name me another female MC that the men borrow from, Mike. That's what I mean about how high level she is. Name me the female MC that men feel comfortable borrowing from bar wise, because it's her.
Yeah, it's one of the
That be
best to ever
it.
do it.
And Get Off is Go Off is actually a dope ass song too.
Hmm.
But that's the thing. I feel like after Go Off, it goes down a little bit slightly. So I feel like the first 12 records on here are fast and really, really dope and without much misstep. And the pace kind of falls off. I don't love it when you name an album and the title song isn't one of the best tracks on the album. Like Aquemini. Oh no, that's a top 5, top 3 song on Aquemini. You feel me? The
Hmm.
album's called Herbert. Herbert's not even one of the top 5 songs on here.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a fan of title tracks, actually. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's not fair. I mean, Outkast was able to do it seamlessly, and really, when you think about it, it didn't even feel like they needed to, because it sounds like their albums were based on themes and they actually had songs to them. But that's a rare exception. But yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of title tracks in hip hop. I mean, of course, we got it with Purple Rain and Thriller and things like that. But in hip hop, it's always felt like albums were more conceptual as far as titles go than actually having a title track. But it's funny you said that about the feature as the first song. And I never really thought about it in that way, but I agree. I don't know if you know the story, and probably talked about this before, that Big Boy wanted, speaking of Akumina, he wanted Y'all Scared to be the first song on the album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, KP and everybody over there, Arista at the time, and LaFace, they were like, nah, we need a song with y'all. We can't have the first song being y'all and Goody Mob. But it's interesting, Goody Mob did that with Thought Process on Soul Food. So the way Big Boy was thinking wasn't too far off. It's like, we family. You know what I mean?
Well, hold on, not necessarily. So it starts off like that, but here's how you have to look at it. First of all, the intro to Soul Food sets a very, very strong tone.
It does.
Okay? Like, you know what's going on by the time CeeLo's done harmonizing. On Thought Process, Mike, well, the guest appearance happens at the very, very, very end of the song. Like, all the people in the group got on the track and flexed and did their thing. So
Yeah.
you have a clear and concise vision and purview of the crew. Like, so Thought Process is more of an outlier than the norm of what you get when you put somebody on.
I don't think there's
You
any
know,
other song that would have been more fitting first on that album than Thought Process. I can't hear any other
correct.
song going first. It set an incredible tone. It let you know who everybody in that group was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's always been a lot of the classic album makers' mindset. Was like, no, we need the group or the act to set the tone with no features. So I think that's a very great point. Eric Terrell with the super chat says KD3, SZA, SOS, Wasteland, Brent, Fire, and Ari Lennox, best album I've heard this year. Plus, Coop, stop making excuses for Brady. He just ain't got it no more. It's no more in the tank.
Sometimes you lose it.
Well, I ain't gonna say that until the playoffs hit. We'll see what playoff Brady look like. Because if he's sneaking the playoffs, and I mean he's pretty much in there, right? Because that division is.
No. There's a way that Carolina could still win the division, I believe.
Oh, okay. He's
Yeah,
sneaking the
that's possible.
playoffs. Then we'll see. We'll see from
But they're
there.
probably gonna play Dallas. So if Dallas loses to this Tampa Bay team, it's like, oh, buddy, you better hide.
Yeah, it'll be a lot to talk about. What was your favorite song on this album?
I really enjoyed Moonshooter
Okay,
and Hollandaise.
I
But
like Hollandaise.
I want to give it some more burn too, because I had to listen to it in 2 different settings. Like, I got to listen to the first half, and then I got to listen to the second half, and then I got to kind of like go back through and be like, okay, it is what I thought that it was. I just feel like it loses steam around Fallacy and Herbert. You know?
Yeah, I think it could have been shorter too. I think that, and we've talked about this at length when it comes to the streaming era. It's one of those things where artists who are getting a pretty decent push They want to put more songs on there because that's obviously just going to increase their streams. But it's like you don't want it to feel forced. And on this album, it feels like you said, the songs that were excessive were more towards the end, and I think the album would have just been a lot better. And it's already a really dope album. It would have been even better if it was cut down to maybe about 13, 14 songs. He
How
didn't
about
need
this? It's like,
18 on here.
how about this? After Go Off, it's like, give me It Be Like That and Gotta Rap, and you can end the album.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Positive Vibes only, it's like, nah, you could have kept that a little bit. I was like, okay. That was one of those things where it's like, okay, it's like, it's officially hit the hour mark, and you made this type of song, which is one of the weaker songs on the album, at the hour mark. It's like, you know, you don't want to start losing people at the end like that when you've made such a dope project. And so I think and it's kind of funny because we don't have these talks as much as I feel like we had last year. It's just a conciseness issue. It's not like the records aren't there, and it's not like it's not a very enjoyable album with a lot of highlights and a lot of dope moments. And I think, like you, I think you could argue that this is maybe his best album, and definitely production-wise, best effort. Because I was trying to think to myself, is like, I know sometimes when you're experimental like he is, you know, it sounds good to you and it may sound good with your voice, but it may not resonate. I feel like structurally these beats resonate more than any other collection of beats that he's selected from.
I like Do Better as well. And I want to clarify as far as what I'm saying is with the end of the album, I still would like Gotta Rap to end the album. But
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but like, kind of subtract some of the stuff before it. Because Gotta
like
Rap's dope.
Like literally, I feel like you could take out Positive Vibes and Herbert and Fallacy and Church on the Move, and you would be fine, and you would have a top 10 album. And I like Church on the Move too, but it's like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to make tough cuts, you know?
Right. You don't necessarily have to have that record. Like, what about that record? Like, it's a good song, but what about that record says, oh, this got to be on the album?
What I will say, in comparison to, you know, his I guess former TDE contemporary, and like people were saying in the chat, when I heard the first couple of songs, I'm like, oh yeah, he came to make a hip hop album.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's not, you know, what I mean, Kendrick made a hip hop album, but maybe not a rap album. Let me say it like that. When you hear those drums come in and drums come in a certain way and flows are hitting a certain way and artists are collaborating and spitting back and forth a certain way, that's on some hip hop shit. But again, that goes back to what you were saying, like, you know, you got to go back to Compton. You got to see and feel the environment and the people and the way people are moving. Like, it's so many things that you can go to and get re-inspired.
It makes you emotional, Mike. It does. It like that's sometimes why it's like if I'm going through a thing, I literally I'll just ride through the east side sometimes.
It just reminds you of why you do this. You know, sometimes when you're in the middle of it and you're putting in the work, you're creating, you're doing the tours and all that, you don't really have that time to really clear your head and remember why you're doing this and remember how hard you work to get here and remember the days when you dreamed of doing this. And you wanted it that bad. I mean, again, I'm not in Kendrick's head, but it feels like, you know, just based on this effort, he doesn't, you know, have a great grasp or reflection of those days. But hearing this AbSouls album, I'm like, yeah, he came to rap.
Mm-hmm. Very much interested in rapping. So here's what I would submit to you. I don't think this is maybe a top 10 album. What's backing up our top 10?
I think the last one that we had was It's Almost Dry.
So this isn't better than It's Almost Dry to me. Is it to you?
I don't know. I think It's Almost Dry has the big highlights. But I think there's some things that I've been critical about on It's Almost Dry that he was able to seamlessly accomplish, but he's always been that expressive anyway. It's Almost Dry doesn't give you anything into the mind of Pusha T. It just doesn't. It's hollow in that sense. And that's my critique on It's Almost Dry. And I think my critique is more so with the artist than the actual album per se. I think this album's better produced than It's Almost Dry.
I can agree to that. And now this is what I mean. So The MC, since we were talking about Brady earlier, the MC is the quarterback in this hip hop sphere. It's the most important person in the sphere. And as an MC, this is what I mean. Well, when you make some of the missteps that AbSoul made with this album, and there's not a lot, but there are some. I think I kind of just highlighted them, and I hope I wasn't like being overly critical, just like with the intro stuff and the length stuff, because it can seem like you're nitpicking when you're talking about these things. But these are the critical components of like making a great piece of work is the editing stage and the process and the track selection and the sequence. Like these things really, really do matter. And that's what we do here at According to Hip Hop is break that down. And so in the breakdown of it, I would tell you that had this editing stuff been done, I would feel comfortable putting it ahead of Almost Dry. But I'm not putting an album that's a little too long, that has some missteps, that he didn't even start off by himself, ahead of Brambleton and Let the Smoker Shine the Coop and Diet Coke and Neck and Wrist. And just so you know who you're dealing with, it's like, no, I can't do that because, like, even for what he didn't provide you in depth, the MC level is still pretty ridiculous now, isn't it?
And, I think the tiebreaker in this situation, and we've talked about this before, is when you release in December, you're given an unfair advantage over people who have had to sustain the whole year. And we're not able to see how it holds up for another 6-7 months in relation to the year. So you would have to give the nod to the person who has had to do that.
Now I believe we had Ransom at 11. Is this better than the Ransom?
I would like to go to the people on that one. What do you guys think? No. Is it No Rest for the Wicked? I don't know why I keep messing up this.
No One Mourns the Wicked.
No One Mourns the Wicked. I'm going to pray for the wicked. All right, yeah. No One Mourns the Wicked or Herbert. I mean, I think that's something to really send to the people. Mad Max with the super chat says, since Eric mentioned the SZA album, my question is SZA, Summer, and Ari from Dreamville, the R&B version of Drake, Dot, and Cole, and which one is which? I would say SZA's Drake. I would say Summer's Kendrick and Ari's Cole. I know it's safe to say Ari's Cole, but yeah, Summer's Kendrick. Leroy Green.
Is she?
I think so.
I think, okay.
Erratic, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't know what you're going to get.
Say less.
Say less. Leroy Green with the super chat says, do you guys feel the Dungeon Family may have been too experimental like way Kendrick is going? I think in reference to, I want to be careful when I say this. I think that the Dungeon Family start going into sectors that certain members of the group or the collective were comfortable going in, but it wasn't as beneficial for everybody, right? I think that Killer Mike suffered from the fact that they started getting really, really experimental in a time where he was just a beats and rhymes MC. I think he caught them at the wrong time. I think if Killer Mike comes in with the Dungeon around 97, 98, things are different as far as where they were production-wise. I think that where Goody Mob was going on World Party didn't really benefit Cool Joe or T-Mo that much in ways that it could have benefited, Gipp and CeeLo moving forward.
True.
So I think that, just if they would have been able to do successfully what Wu-Tang was able to do, have these individual chambers and let Ray and Ghost do what they're doing over here. Let Jizza do what he does over here. Let Dirty do what he does over here. Let Meth do what he does over here. I think it kind of could have translated a little bit better. Not everybody was able to seamlessly adjust in a way like Big Boy was able to adjust to Dre and vice versa. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I think the experimentation is great, but it just didn't benefit everybody equally. 36 Chambers of the super chat says, Do Better is the type of song I would have wanted on Mr. Morale. Conscious, personal, has depth, and still sounds like it's on some rap shit.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what people got to understand too. part of the skill level and you being an all-time great is to be palatable. Like that is a skill in itself, to be relatable. There's a lot of people
Mhm.
who aren't like lyrical miracle MCs but have a talent of being able to connect. A Scarface, a Ice Cube. Tupac is the quintessential version of that, you know? Like he's able to connect on all levels, on all subjects, and all sounds, everything.